according to Eugene de Kock's lawyer, no one knows where the apartheid-era assassin is. At the end of January, Justice Minister Michael Masuta announced that he had approved de Kock's parole, but it appears he may still be in custody. His lawyer, Julian Knight, joins us on the line. Mr. Knight, good evening to you and welcome. Do you know what happened to your client between the time of the announcement of his parole and now?
Well, from what I know is a week before the minister made his announcement, Mr. de Kock was extracted from the prison and put into the care of an agency of state, supposedly on the pretext of doing a risk analysis with regard to his safety and then obviously then integrating him into the parole system. The situation that we have almost a month later, or no, 2 months later, I should say, is that he is still in limbo. He has not been transferred to community corrections. He has not been provided with his parole conditions, and he has not been assigned a parole officer, which is what the standard operating procedures are of any person who is a prisoner who is placed on parole.
When was the last time you saw your client?
Well, the last time I saw him was shortly before the matter was resolved in court in November last year.
So it's been, a few months then since you have actually had contact with him?
Yes, but I have had contact with him through intermediaries.
When was the last time you had, contact from de Kock directly through these intermediaries?
Well, that is what exactly led me to write the letter that I did to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. That would have been last week Wednesday also, or this week Wednesday.
I'm trying to establish, Mr. Knight, when was the last time you had any word about your client directly, either directly or through one of these intermediaries?
Probably today. But the fact of the matter is that Mr. de Kock has still not been placed on parole. The minister wants to, I have heard from other sources, say that they're surprised that I'm making these allegations because Mr. de Kock wants to keep the conditions of his parole out of the public eye. The fact of the matter is that he does not have anything to keep out of the public eye because he hasn't been given anything yet. He hasn't been transferred into the Department of Community Corrections. If you check on the computer systems within the prison, he is still detained as a prisoner. He will only be on parole once he, as a prisoner, is transferred to community corrections.
Is the current status quo illegal, Mr. Knight?
I wouldn't say it is illegal. It's just irregular. It's rather peculiar.
There was talk, and you alluded to it. Reports that he's been handed to security to security forces, as the news report goes. You've talked about being handed over to intermediaries for a risk analysis to be done. Do you know who these people are?
No, I don't.
So you have concerns tonight?
No, I don't have concerns. All that I am, attorneys are creatures of instruction. We don't make things up. We act on the instructions of our client. And my client, Eugene de Kock, has conveyed through an intermediary to me his displeasure at the manner in which he is currently detained.
Are there any other details about that detention which is ongoing?
No, it's just that he wants to get on with his life and he wants to start his normal parole process as any other prisoner and or criminal who is released on parole.
So, in a sense, Mr. Knight, you are now forcing a government's hand to make a declaration either way by launching this habeas corpus application in court. Tell us a bit more about that and what the prospects of success you have.
Well, it would be quite simple. If government is saying everything is fine, then produce Mr. de Kock and let him say so. That would be the simplest way of resolving the matter. But the fact of the matter is he has not been placed on parole. He hasn't been assigned a parole officer. He hasn't been transferred to the Department of Community Corrections. And up until he is in that process, he is not on parole.
How soon does this court action get underway?
Well, that would all depend upon what the response that I get eventually from the Minister's office, which I to date have not received, as well as possibly what instructions I might receive from my client in the interim if he were to contact me.
So correctional services and all the other related agencies have kept mum?
Well, they have not responded to my correspondence. I don't necessarily want to infer that they are keeping mum. They just haven't responded yet.
All right, so what happens tomorrow, Mr. Knight?
Well, the sun will come up and the sun will go down. We'll have to wait until next week.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for talking to us. Eugene de Kock's lawyer, Julian Knight, on questions around Mr. de Kock's whereabouts tonight.